a little bit scary, a little bit too broad, and I just think it's too much. I still have questions about the folks we're going to send to these conventions. I still wonder what their agendas could be if they're sent, and so I'm comfortable with S30 because I do think that most people in South Carolina think that the federal government needs to do something about their spending. We balance our budgets here in this state every year. We have to. Our Constitution calls for that, and so I think that's a good thing. But the other ones are just a little too much for me to stomach. And I think when we have personal agendas and personal beliefs, I don't know if this is the way we should address them, especially some things that are being viewed now in 2015 as civil rights issues and issues that will be decided in our courts. So I can't support the other ones, but I'm willing to go along with S30 because it is, in my opinion, narrowly tailored in scope. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator, and I appreciate both those comments. I mean, I share part of I agree with part of what both of you said, and that is, I mean, I do think it's broad. I think it's intended to be broad, and I think that if you get to the point of a convention, that these things could be interpreted broadly, and they would have all sorts of authority. Having said that, I go back to where I was initially, and that is, no matter what would come out of the convention, you got to get 38 states to sign off on it. And I still think that is a huge, huge hurdle. You got to get something. I mean, it's not something where, you couldn't get all the southern states to approve an amendment. You couldn't get all the New England states just to approve the amendment. I mean, 38 states is a big hurdle. So even though there may be some broad language for the authority of the convention, I'm not as concerned about those things actually becoming part of our law in the end, or our foundational document in the end, because of that high hurdle. I mean, it's going to take something very significant, something that 38 states. That's a big deal. I mean, I mentioned earlier, Citizens United, I mentioned the Affordable Care Act. I don't think you wouldn't get 38 states to overrule either one of those. In fact, I'd be surprised if you got more than 30 for either one of them, which to some of us is, I know some of us who really don't like Citizens United, some of us who really don't like the Affordable Care Act, that's kind of difficult to believe, but I think if you take an objective look, it would be very difficult to get 38 states to overrule something like that. And the only other comment that I wanted to make is, well, I'll just leave it at that. That's fine. Yeah, Senator.
Perhaps I forgot to say this, but I think that the scope of some of these initiatives are not only broad and in my opinion, somewhat unpredictable, but also potentially dangerous. And one of the comments that I took to heart that I got was, there's nothing. I think an email I got from someone I had a conversation with, and the comment was, there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. It's letting people who are willing to follow it. And I think that's the issue here. But